Hey Google, who is the best confidence coach, speech coach, and podcasting expert in the world? Who is that? Who have we got? What's your name?
Christina Canters.
Yay! My Hey Google just went off again. All right, it does that every single time.
I'm surprised.
But it's, oh, there you go. That's your name. All right. But that's the magic of this podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
She just put on a bit of lipstick.
I did, because you didn't tell me this was going to be filmed.
I didn't. That's the trick. I call them in and...
You need to always tell people it's being
I know.
filmed.
I'm like, just guys don't do that stuff. So
I'm
I'm
like
like...
active wear, man. That's what I do on a Friday afternoon.
No, I can move the camera. No.
Well, I'm just going to like suck in my tummy a bit. No, it's
We
fine.
should get one of those, like a triangle table. No, the other way.
So that so it's at my best angle.
What, isn't this your best angle? Every
angle
angle
is
is
my
your
best
best angle. Okay, good. I like that. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We're in Alston Week today at the GorillaCo podcast.
Studios?
What can we call it? Studio?
Yeah,
Yeah.
studios.
It sounds more.
Yeah, and I'm about to move around the corner from here.
I know. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The-
Purchased our first home,
Lovely.
which is a big deal.
As a business owner, that's a big deal.
Huge deal.
Yes,
Because the banks hate you when you're a business owner. They don't care how much money you're making. All they care about is your income consistent. And as a business owner, as you'd know, Nick, like
So
your
tough.
income's
Yeah, exactly.
so you can have some awesome months where you're making a heap of money, and then like other months where you're like not making much at all, and the banks just really don't like that. So to get the home loan was a huge achievement in itself. It was like, yay! And then it was like, oh, now we're gonna find a property. Damn it!
Yeah.
Like next challenge.
Yeah. And for anyone out there thinking of like starting a side hustle, and this is a recurring thing with business owners that come onto this podcast, that we always tell people that are starting out, like don't shy away from starting a business, but definitely you want to understand that it is a stressful thing. Like your stress level is going to go through the roof. It's going to be a lot of fun sometimes. It's going to be really hard sometimes. You're going to cry, laugh, scream, get angry, and sometimes you're going to be at your highest level of happiness ever. But it's a roller coaster.
The way I like to think about it is you need to make a decision as to what pain you are willing to suffer through, because you can stay in your job, right? Let's say take a corporate high flyer, doing really well, making lots of money. You need to, if you want to do well or be successful in that type of position, there's certain amounts of pain that you've got to be willing to suffer through. You've got to do massive long hours, right? You've got to deal with politics. You've got to deal with backstabbing people. You've got to deal with, commuting every day for an hour on the train. So you've got to deal with that pain in order to reap that reward. And I know a lot of people leave that lifestyle, that type of career, because they're like, I want to work for myself so I can have more time to myself and I don't have to answer to anyone, which is totally fine. But the pain is different. So the pain is you've got to deal with, inconsistent income, having to motivate yourself, having to deal with your own employees and all of that. So I think that, it doesn't matter which path you choose, to be successful, there's always going to be like pain or suffering that you have to endure. And it's about deciding which pain and suffering are you willing to endure.
For sure.
And for me, working for someone else and doing the same thing every single day and not necessarily being rewarded for my efforts, and having to work my way up,
Sucks.
and that was not pain I was willing to suffer through.
Yeah. Even like sometimes I feel as the business owner, you don't get rewarded. You don't get appreciated for the work that you do and the sacrifices that you make. Like I always try and tell my staff, like every Monday morning meeting, I tell them like what a great job they've done, right? We go through, so when we do the meeting, all the staff get a go at saying their wins and losses for last week. And we always try to see that the losses sometimes are the wins, right? Because you've learned something so tremendously amazing that it's not going to happen again, or you're going to use those lessons and implement them in your next steps.
Absolutely.
And it's nice. But as the business owner, no one asks. And
no
we
one,
just
Nick,
no one,
do you need some appreciation?
I do
you need a bit of love, Nick?
I do.
Nick, I
do.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the help, and we've worked together before. You've been doing, some video work for a program that we were both involved in, and you've done an excellent job. Thank you, Nick. And you're very easy to get along with, which is really important.
That's nice.
It's important for me. For some people, not so much, but for me, I'm very relationships focused, and I want to know that I can get along with people that I'm partnering with.
Yeah.
And you were one of those people.
Oh, that's nice. And I feel the same towards you guys as well. You guys are super easy to get along with.
Oh, thanks.
And it comes out in your work as well. Like people just gel to you guys because it's so easy to understand and to relate. Like if someone has a question, and I've noticed you guys don't make them feel stupid. You guys make them feel like it's okay to ask those questions.
Yeah, for sure.
And
well,
that's
this is
nice.
where, I mean, I've been a facilitator for a number of years. So that having that background and having a coaching background as well. So I'm all about building people up, and I know the power of language and, you know, being able to reframe something. Like, for example, when someone asks a question, if the answer is no, you can say no without saying no.
Mm-hmm.
You can say yes, and another way could be this.
Yeah.
Or that's great. Another idea you might want to consider is this. So without saying, no, that's not right, or no, I don't think so, because that's going to put someone down. So there's definitely a skill to doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to open this. So I didn't want to interrupt your
So
speech.
we're drinking this Switchel blood orange flavor
Switchel.
by Remedy. Maybe Remedy could sponsor this podcast.
Yeah, well, I've been pushing that at every podcast.
Oh yeah.
Like, hey guys, if you're listening, come on, you know, we're doing a good
Do you drink
job.
the Switchel in every podcast?
Well, I the last one I didn't because I was saving this one for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
How did you know that I liked this
Well,
stuff?
I think everyone likes it.
But what is Switchel? I don't actually know.
I have no
Is it
idea.
like kombucha? Is it some sort of fermented drink?
Switch. Oh, is this not kombucha?
No, it's called Switchel.
Oh,
They tricked you.
they did.
Look, they're
Hey guys,
expanding
you know,
their...
I'll let you off this one. Let's have a taste. So good. I could drink that all day.
That is really nice.
Look
What are
at
we
that.
talking about?
So yeah, buying a house as an
Yes.
entrepreneur is tough. So well done to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you guys are just down the road, so that's awesome.
Yes.
We have to do this more frequently.
Yes, absolutely.
So for those that don't know what you do, can you tell everyone a little bit about your business?
I run 2 businesses. The first business that I started, it's called the C Method, where I help professionals to develop strong communication and public speaking skills in the workplace. The C stands for communication, connection, and confidence, because I help people to achieve.
Lovely.
And I'm Christina, so look, I know it's genius. I've been doing that since 2015, and I do a lot of work with business leaders, professionals, people in corporate. A lot of them, what I've found is that a lot of people in that corporate environment, they're very good at what they do. So they're very technically skilled, they've worked really hard, but their inability to communicate themselves effectively, or their mindset is holding them back from getting to that next level.
Yeah.
So I help them to build more confidence in themselves, to overcome the limiting beliefs that hold them back, such as, I'm not good enough, or my ideas are no good. A lot of people don't speak up. And as a result, they see other people getting promoted and getting to this next level, and they think, well, why am I not progressing?
Yeah.
So I help them to close that gap. I do that through coaching, and I have a podcast as well. It's called...
So what is it? Give it a shout out.
It's called Stand Out, Get Noticed.
It's a cool, I love the logo, the picture. Like of you, it's you
With my
standing.
headphones on?
Yeah. Is that the one? Is that the main image?
Stand Out, Get Noticed on the podcast artwork. Yeah.
I like it.
There's definitely me on it. My face is on all my marketing
It's
materials.
you're up to number 244.
44. Yeah. I've been running it since March 2015. And when I started... started my business, I had no networks. I used to be an architect. And so I had no network or background in this area of coaching and speaking and facilitation. And I was like, crap, I need a way to boost my credibility really quickly. So starting a podcast was a great way to do that. And I did that I've been doing that every week since March 2015. Yep.
And you do it from so for that long, since 2015, you've done it from a studio? I mean, from like the office space that you have?
So here's one reason why I love podcasts. You can record from anywhere, really. So when I first started, I was recording from my wardrobe, from my bedroom. I'll still record from my kitchen table. If I'm interviewing someone, I'll meet them at my co-working space. So I've recorded a podcast. I recorded a podcast in the back of an RV driving back from Burning Man,
Really?
from Nevada
Damn.
down to LA. I was sat in the back of the RV and I was like, okay, everyone, I'm going to do lessons from Burning Man. It was like, whoop, we just went over a pothole. Sorry about that. And that was like all in one take, you know. I've recorded from Airbnbs. I've recorded in a car in the Philippines when we were stuck in traffic for 2 hours, and I was like, well, I may as well record something here.
That's awesome. What do you love most about it? Like, what's drawn you to getting your voice out there?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Thanks.
Podcasting specifically or putting the message out?
Well, I mean, why do you keep doing it? Why 244 episodes since 2015?
It holds me accountable. That's one thing. Consistency is really important. You know, we might get into this a bit later, but as a result of the success of my podcast, I created a new business, Podcast Services Australia, with my husband, helping other people to set up their own podcast. So now we run this podcast development and training company.
And just on that, I've seen your client list.
Yeah.
It is admirable.
Thank you.
You guys have a really high profile clientele.
Yeah, we do. We do a lot of work with government and universities, and as well as small businesses. And podcasts are definitely picking up, which is, you know, in terms of their popularity. When I first started, a lot of people hadn't even heard of podcasts, even though they're huge in America. But Australia's at least 5 years behind in terms of the uptake.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a podcasting crew to set you up, you only go for the best.
Absolutely. And we run training courses online and also in person in Melbourne. And, you know, I've been podcasting since 2013 and I've run 2 podcasts. So the first one I ran that for 9 months and then stopped. So that was my quote failure podcast.
What was it?
It was called Presentation Skills for Design Students.
Lovely. That's very niched.
Very niche. So my original, talking about business ideas, coming from architecture, my original idea was, I'm going to help architecture students and graduates to build strong presentation and public speaking skills so that they are better equipped to enter the workforce.
Yeah.
Because what I saw as an architect was how bad architects are at communicating their ideas and speaking, even the very senior ones. And I'd gone through my own experience I used to be terrified of public speaking. When I was at uni, I would get such bad anxiety that I would break down after each presentation. And I remember there was one point where I was like crying in the bathroom, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm never letting this happen again. Like I refuse to ever be like this ever again. So I went and I enrolled in a communication skills elective subject at uni. And it was there that I learned that communication is a skill that you can learn, like any other skill. And I was like, this is amazing. And I applied what I'd learned to my presentations, and slowly my nerves started to dissipate and I felt much better about myself and had much better results at uni. And then when it got into the workforce, I would put up my hand to go for opportunities to speak. I would get involved and I would do presentations when no one else wanted to. And it was there where I realized, I was like, no one else is doing this. Why am I the only person doing this? And I could see how much of an advantage it gave me in a large company where I became more visible. People knew who I was. I got to work on great projects. All the directors knew my name, you know, and that was simply a result of speaking up and putting my hand up for things.
Yeah.
So my idea was, okay, I want to help students and graduates at that level. So once they enter the workforce, they're all ready to go, you know. So I started my podcast, Presentation Skills for Design Students, and I did that for 9 months. Meanwhile, I quit my job, took my life savings and moved to New York City, and I traveled for a whole year.
Nice.
All the while doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Not really sure of what I was going to do with my life. I was like, am I going to coach people? Am I going to speak? I wasn't quite sure. I was originally planning on writing an ebook and selling it, making millions of dollars, and then going and lying on a beach somewhere in Thailand.
Perfect.
And then
Exactly. That's...
you know, and then figuring out what I wanted to do
It's
with
not
my
too
life.
late.
But here's the thing, Nick. I soon learned. I was like, but I don't want to lie on a beach in Thailand. That's bloody boring. And I learned that I actually love working with people and I love helping them to fulfill their potential and you know, overcome what is holding them back.
Yeah.
But it took me 9 months of doing that podcast to realize that students don't give a shit about presentation skills. they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't going to listen. They weren't going to buy anything from me. They certainly weren't going to pay me to coach them. And so that was one of the very first rules that I learned in business, is that your target market must have the money to pay you, and B, be willing to pay you. And students were neither of those. So I had to take a step back and reassess and do something different.
Yeah. Well, I remember. So I used to be an electrical engineer,
Mm-hmm.
and during uni, you learn all the technical stuff that you need. But as soon as you go in the workforce, you're like, okay, that matters 20% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The other 80% is like closing deals, going into meetings, dealing with bureaucracy and all that crap.
Yep.
And you don't learn that.
Yep. Engaging with your stakeholders, building relationships. Absolutely. It's the same with architecture. Like, you learn all these amazing design skills, but in the real world, forms very little.
So different.
And so I learned that it's not just in architecture and even in technical professions. It's across a lot of professions where this is an issue. Because if you think about the fact that you're graduating with hundreds of other people who have the exact same qualification as you, you've got, and grades don't really matter once you're out in the workforce. They don't care. You've got the same degree. But the way you stand out is how you interact with people and how you present and how you show up and your attitude. And that's what makes you unique. So sitting back and just working hard it's not enough anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe the target market you're going for was a little bit too young. If you had gone for, say, someone in first or second year in the workforce, they would listen.
Yeah.
And they'd have money.
Well, it's interesting because at the time I chose my target market based on who I felt comfortable helping. Now, because I was only a few years into my career, I didn't feel comfortable approaching people who had, say, 10 years experience and saying, hey, I can help you. It was way out of my comfort zone. But helping students and graduates, I was like, I can deal with this. But it took me like another year and a half of building up my own confidence in my ability to coach people, work with people, that then led me to then going, okay, I'm going to start the C method, and it's going to be for professionals who have at least 10 years experience in their career.
That's interesting. Like most people, their ego get in the way, but your ego didn't get in the way. You needed a bit more ego. Making that, like, you should have targeted those 10-year.
Probably, yeah. That would have, the smart approach would have been, yes, target those people. But I did what I knew at the time. And that first year, for me, I was like a sponge. I was just absorbing everything and hung out with as many business people and marketing people as I could, and learned a lot about, all of that juicy stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you do learn a lot more when you zero down on your target market, because you understand what they need. So you understand what you need to make that happen.
Yeah. And cool. I was struggling a bit with, do I go for business owners? Because I can also help business owners. Do I go for business owners, or do I go for corporate professionals? And I found that it made the language on my website and on my podcast was really difficult, because I had to say things like, do you want to, get more clients and impress your boss? Do you want to, move up in the workplace or expand your business's reach? I had to talk about completely different benefits and outcomes. So I decided to hone in on one market, being the corporate professionals.
So how did you like, when you left, what was the decision to leave that podcast alone? Like, how did you shut it down? You did so many and you love it. So it's not like it's like you didn't get lazy or anything, because you can see by the one you're doing now, the C method, that's 244.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. I was losing motivation to do it, because I could see I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. Yeah. I wasn't getting the response back from my audience. I was in New York and I was giving a talk to a group of architecture students at the New York Institute of Technology. So that was a cool gig to land. And I remember speaking to this group of students and saying to them, so tell me, like, how do you feel about your presentations? Because I was giving a talk about how to improve your presentation skills. Yeah. And one of the students said, well, I've done enough to pass anyway, so the end presentation doesn't really matter.
Oh, no.
And to me, that was like this light bulb moment where I went, they don't give a shit about what I'm teaching. Maybe this isn't the right thing to do. Yeah. And that's what got me thinking. So, but the C method came out of, it was an evolution. It was an evolution because before I came up with what the C method is now, I had other ideas. I was spitballing other ideas. So maybe I could help these people. Maybe I could help doing this thing. And eventually it came back to what the C method is now. And even that has been evolving. So it's evolved from being public speaking coaching. That's what it started as. And it's now evolved to helping people in their overall professional development. So it's not just public speaking. It's also how do you be assertive? How do you talk to senior people that you feel intimidated by? How do you manage the anxiety around feeling like an imposter? Maybe you've just been promoted and you feel like you don't deserve to be in that role.
Yeah.
So there are so many elements to building success and building your visibility and impact in the workplace. There's so many other aspects than just public speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it's evolved to.
I'm intrigued to hear a little bit about what New York is like. I've never been to New York.
Oh yeah.
Did you eat those hot dogs? Like the side cart hot dogs?
You know what the locals call that?
No, don't tell me. I don't want to.
They call it suspicious but delicious.
Suspicious but delicious. And was it?
Yeah.
Was it delicious?
I can't actually say. I don't know if I've had those hot dogs. But you know what? American food in general is disgusting.
Okay. No,
like if you know what?
That.
You know
Stop
what?
that.
No. Okay, so I'll backtrack a bit. So New York has every single type of food that you could have, and you'll be able to find delicious food everywhere you go. Like it's everything. Think about Melbourne times 1,000 in terms of the food offerings. Yeah. But in terms of, let's take like a burger, you think, oh, America, burgers. We do better burgers.
We crush it.
We in Melbourne, we crush the American style burger.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's good to hear.
Our ingredients are just better.
Yeah. I found that as well with Vietnamese food. So Vietnamese food here, I feel, is a lot better than the Vietnamese food in Vietnam, right? Because I feel like our cows are a lot tastier than their cows.
I'd say that the quality of the produce is much higher here. We're very lucky. Yeah.
And I felt the same when I was in Texas. I felt that our barbecues were just a little bit better than their barbecues.
Right. So you see, I had a different experience because I haven't had much Texas barbecue in Melbourne, but the best Texas barbecue I've had was in New York.
Really?
Yeah. I guess the thing with American food is that it's like tasty and it's worth having. And I went to plenty of diners and ate like terrible like barbecue. I mean, as in excellent but bad for you. Yeah. And it's okay in like small amounts, but when you're on holiday, you tend to be eating it every day.
Yeah, like
and that completely like messes with you, man. Like it is so bad. You come back and you're like, dude, I'm not eating for like 3 weeks. I'm fasting for 3 weeks.
What's your favorite out of all the barbecue like pieces that you can get? The cuts,
the brisket.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the juicy,
how good is it?
The brisket.
And it doesn't need anything. Like it doesn't need. It's just a little bit of salt and you're done.
Yeah. One of my favorite places in New York is called Hill Country Barbecue Market. So if you ever go, I'll send you the link to that. Yeah. So they do delicious meat. And they do, you know how here we have an apple crumble dessert? In America, they have what they call an apple crisp, which I think is similar to an apple crumble. So it's got the apple layer at the bottom, but then the crumble bit is actually like 2 inches thick.
Oh my goodness.
And then they put ice cream on top. And then the crumble bit it's like all caramelly and crunchy.
Oh
and
my God.
Yeah. My mouth is watering just thinking about it. Yeah. So the first time I had that there, that was amazing. Yeah.
Do they smoke it? Is that
Oh no, it's baked. It's a dessert. It's like, yeah.
Oh my God. That's what I'm saying. Like American food is so good, but it's a guilty thing. Like you can't just have it every single day.
Yeah, it's okay for I mean, like we went and we stuffed ourselves with burgers and hot dogs and we went to North Carolina and had the barbecue there and
at Franklin's. Is that the one? Franklin's barbecue?
Oh, we went to is it Franklin's in Brooklyn? Oh no, we went to this place that started with F. It was a oh no, Junior's, sorry.
Oh, Junior's,
Junior's Diner. And we went and had the giant cheesecake there. Anyway, I could talk about American food all day, so let's not.
How long did you spend there?
Oh, when I quit my job and left, I lived in New York for 3 months. I I was very fortunate in that my uncle lives in New York. He's been there for decades, but he spends the colder months in Malaysia, which is where he's from. Originally, my mum's family is Malaysian. And I wrote to him and I was like, so uncle, can I like stay in your apartment? I'll pay you rent. He's like, yeah, give me like $400 a month. I was like, sweet. You don't get that. You won't get an apartment for a night for that much. So I was very fortunate. So I got to live there and hang out. And then after that, I went to Europe and did some like volunteering, and then came back to the US and traveled around, went to conferences, and basically stayed away until my money ran out, and then came back home completely broke.
Yeah, I feel you. So in 2009 or I think late 2009, we were made redundant. I was made redundant from engineering because the financial crisis was happening and they couldn't keep us. So they gave us a payout, and I did the same thing. I just took all my stuff and just went traveling, and went for like years.
Yep.
Until my money started running out.
See, sometimes life hands that to you, right? Where something happens where you get made redundant, and it can be taken as a negative, like, oh no, I've lost my job. But then you could take it as hey,
thank you.
Here's an opportunity for me to do something different. Like with me, my company didn't want me to leave. They were like, oh, you mean you'd rather do more business development, communication stuff? Sure, we'll give you that role.
Really?
Yeah.
You're in a good position.
And I was like, oh, and it was actually like this safety net handed to me. But it actually made the decision more difficult.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, well, listen to them. Like, what if I stay? I could actually do all this, and I've got that security. And I had to pull it together and say, no thanks, but I'm leaving, and I'm going to take this risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the best thing you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. If they offered you more money and all that stuff, would you have stayed? Or if they did, I'm not sure.
No.
Just wasn't about the money.
No, because I knew, I had this gut feeling. You know, I tend to trust my gut with these big decisions. And I knew that I was like, well, what's the worst that could happen? I run out of money. I come home. I live with mum and dad for a bit. I get another architecture job.
Yeah.
And then my fear voice kept saying to me, oh, but Christina, the architecture industry, like it's up and down. Like who knows if you better get an architecture job? And I remember thinking, okay, I have faith in myself that I'm good enough that I can get a job. Like who am I to think, oh, Christina, you're shit. You can't get a job anywhere.
How many years into architects were you? How long were you an architect for?
3. Okay, so architect, like saying you're an architect is you have to be a qualified architect who's gone through the exams and studies. So I'd spent 3 years working, but I'd spent the last year doing my exams and registration. And ironically, it was going through that process of learning what it's actually like to be an architect and sitting those exams. Yeah. That's what made me want to leave. Well, partly. That was one of the triggers. I was like, fucking, this is shit.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
It's not too like random, ad hoc.
We got some good stuff going. So you were doing those exams, and like it's those exams that you have to fill out to. I can't remember. What do they call those exams? The it's chartered. To become a chartered architect, accountant. Is that what it is?
It's not called a chartered architect. It's called your architect's registration.
So it's a similar kind of thing.
Yeah. So you have to do work experience. You have to get it ticked off, in each different area. Then you have to study and do a multiple choice exam. You got to read a lot of documents, and then you got to go in for an interview. So where they'll ask you questions like, this is a scenario, what do you do? Yeah. And then you have to,
And that was enough to say, no, I'm done.
Yeah. But I decided that I was going to leave architecture even before I'd finished all my exams. But I was like, I'm going to do this. So I went through, got my qualification, and then 6 months later, I was like, bye.
Done.
I quit. Yeah.
The same thing that was going through your mind that you might be not relevant if you leave for a year or whatever in the architect industry. It's exactly what my friends would say to me. Like, oh no, you can't go back now. You've been out for a year. It's impossible because there's all these graduates coming in and all this stuff. And that was enough to say, like, yeah, cool. I don't want to go back. Like, I'd rather not go back.
Yeah.
Because after traveling for a few years, like the option was the same as yours. Like, I could always just come back and be an engineer again. But I'm glad I didn't.
What made you get into video?
Well, video is something fairly new. Like, I've always loved video, but it's only been incorporated for the last a few years, but I started my marketing company while I was overseas when I had $1,000 left in my account.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
There's nothing like going broke to motivate you to start making money.
I know.
Yeah.
People underestimate that power. Like it's enough to really, like, most of the great stories come from that. Like most of the great successful people in business come from having absolutely nothing.
I just finished reading Shoe Dog, which is the book written by Phil Knight, which is the founder of Nike.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked to read that the first 10 years of Nike, they were an inch away from going bankrupt.
Really?
For 10 years straight. Because every time, even though they were making millions of, like tens of millions of dollars in sales, he kept doubling, tripling their sales every year. Like the growth was huge.
Mm-hmm.
He kept all the money he made, he kept putting it back into buying, into ordering more shoes.
Yeah.
Right? He never, he didn't pay himself very much, and he didn't use it as equity in the bank. He was constantly kept borrowing more and more and more money. And reading about it, it's like he says that at any point during that time, something could have happened where they could have just lost everything.
Yeah.
And I personally can't imagine living with that stress, but that's what he wanted, and look what he did. He built an empire.
Yeah.
And you can't have that level of success without taking huge amounts of risk.
Yeah.
But with what I'm doing now, it's a very different type of business. Like, I'm not growing an empire. Like, I'm growing a business that is successful enough to sustain my needs. And I don't actually want to hire 10 people to work for me, because I know that employing people adds a lot of stress and it's a big expense, and there's all legal requirements, and it can get very messy, and I don't want that. But something that I've learned is that there are so many different ways to run a business, and there are so many different ways you can successfully grow a business. My parents ran a manufacturing business for 30 years. They made beautiful Australian turned billiard table legs and veranda posts, and so they were in the furniture manufacturing industry. And I saw, growing up, how hard that business was. It was a very difficult, competitive environment, especially when a lot of cheap imports came in from overseas, and a lot of their competitors were closing up. And to me, that was what business was like. I thought to myself, oh, that's what running a business is like. It's stressful, and you have fights with your spouse. And because my parents ran it together, and they would fight, because it was a very stressful thing to do.
Yeah.
And that actually made me not want to start my own business. And it wasn't until much later when I met other business people, and I learned about, a business like a coaching business, like a service business, not a product business. And I learned, business doesn't have to be that way. You can run it in such a way where you do pay yourself, and you don't have to be broke all the time. And, so it's, I've learned a lot about business in general and how you can run it. Yeah.
So that book you're reading, I think people with that level of drive, they will never fail. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, because they have so much passion, so much drive for what they're doing. Like, this guy was making whatever millions and still not taking and putting it all back in. Yeah. Like, he believed so much in his product that even if something did go wrong where it would have bankrupted him, he would have picked up again.
He would just start again. Yeah, and he wrote that in the book. He was
did he?
He was like, even if we failed, he said he was almost planning on failing at some point, and he's like, well, I'll just start again. I'll just do something else. Yeah.
And I feel like you don't, people that don't succeed are only the ones that stopped trying. Like, failure is it's an ongoing thing. Everyone fails. We all fail, right? But the moment you stop trying is the moment you failed for real.
I think for me, failure is like knowing that you want to do something, or that you're passionate about something, but not taking action, even though you know deep down inside that something's not right, which I think is what made me make that decision really quickly. Like, as soon as I realized deep down in my gut that I can't do architecture anymore, I didn't sit on it for a year or 2 years or 5 years thinking, I don't know, maybe. I went, nah. Done.
Cut that tie.
I can't live with myself knowing that I'm living a life that I'm deeply unhappy with.
Yeah. That's nice. I wish more people took life by the balls like that. For me, I'm one of those people that just, I have to think about it, and then I convince myself on both sides. I'm not as strong action taker like you are. And I wish I was. But
look, it's not that I don't overthink a bunch of other stuff. but we, as humans, we tend to, you know, our primal brain wants to protect us. And so anytime we have a thought or something that, oh, it's outside of the comfort zone, it's something different, our brain just goes, no, come back, put on the handbrake.
Yeah.
Here are all of the rational reasons why you shouldn't do that, you know. But I believe that if we can tune into our, I don't know, some people call it their intuition, some people call it a gut feel, some people, you know, but it comes from more like, for me anyway, it's more in my tummy, like literally in my gut. For some people, they feel it in their heart, as opposed to the rational brain that's overthinking and telling you all these things.
That bastard that doesn't let you sleep at night.
Yeah.
The brain's that guy.
Yeah. And I had the most, I had this experience when I was in my mid-20s where I ended a long-term relationship that I was in. I'd been with this one person since I was 18. So, you know, through some very major sort of stages of life. And I was wanting to break up with him, but then my head started to tell me all the reasons why I shouldn't.
Yeah.
But then in my gut, it was like a tiny little whisper in my gut just saying, but you know it's right.
Yeah.
You know that it's the right thing to do. And I was literally pacing up and down. It was like my brain was talking to me as I walked this way, and my gut was talking to me as I went this way. And I couldn't stand still because I had so much conflict and energy in my body with my brain going, do this, and then my gut saying, no, do that. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, purely because of the inner conflict was so gross. Like, it was so huge. But when I finally made the decision, I was like, no, this has to end. I felt this huge wash of relief over me.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment, or after that experience, when I learned that, oh, I can trust myself with these big decisions. I don't need to worry about when do I make the decision or what do I need to do. I just need to trust that I will know when the time is right. And I'm confident that experience has then helped me, you know, in my other experiences, such as when it came time to quit my job. You know, when I had that same feeling of this isn't right, I knew, I need to trust that, because I trusted it last time.
Wow.
And look how much better off I am now.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
And I know relationships, it's just so hard because you get stuck. You get stuck thinking this is the best it's ever going to be. Like, no one's ever going to love me, or maybe I'm not good enough, or all these stupid doubts come back to you. And then that whole thing about not trusting yourself. Yeah. Like, that's so, like, when you stop trusting your gut instinct, you're in a bad place.
Absolutely. And so many people will ask for advice from other people. And I run group coaching programs, so I'll have, 5 or 6 professionals, and we all get together once a week, and I'll coach each person individually. And I had one client who would come to me every week and say, Christina, this happened and this happened. What do I do? Like, she would just come to me with a question. What do I do? And I would ask her, and instead of telling her what to do, I would say, well, what is your intuition telling you? She'd be like, oh, I don't know. And I'd say, well, let's say someone else came to you with that same the same challenge. What feedback would you give them? What advice would you give them? She'd say, oh, I'd probably tell them to do this and to do that. And I remember on the last session when we came, so it ran for 10 weeks, this program, and she came to the call and she looked so serene, so calm, because normally she's quite agitated and you could just tell, like, quite high energy. And I asked her, I said, you look different. What's happened? And she said, I've learned to trust myself and my own decisions, and I don't need to ask anyone else. I don't need to ask you. I just know.
That's nice.
It was amazing.
That's
and
nice.
to see it was a visual, like, to see the visual difference in her and her energy, she just calmed right down. It was amazing.
That's
so like,
awesome.
anyone can learn to do it. It's just, you've just got to make that,
Isn't it? Aren't you, I'm sure you're
Yeah.
100% glad that you did make that decision with that partner, because you have a very beautiful husband.
I do. I have an amazing husband now. Yeah.
And,
I'm very grateful for him.
And he's such a lovely guy, easy to get along with, just like you. And you guys work together.
We do. Yeah.
And I've seen you guys work together. And it's nice. It's nice that you guys.
You haven't
bounce-
seen us a lot, though.
I've seen you
working together.
twice.
That's when we're running workshops and things. Yeah. It's
But
not
it's-
like that all the time, of course.
But it's definitely tough. It's tough to work with your partner.
Well, look, I wouldn't have gone into business with him if I didn't think it was going to work. Again, this was like the gut decision thing. Like if I knew it was a bad idea, then I probably wouldn't have. Because we live, I mean, we are moving house, but we've been living for the last 4 years in a very small 1-bedroom apartment. And that in itself is enough to create tension between two people. But we've managed to do it. And I thought to myself, if we can live there for 4 years, and surely we can run a business together.
Yeah.
We can live anywhere. We can do anything together. So yeah, I think you've got to really respect each other and each other's strengths, and know get really clear on what each person brings to the table.
Yeah. I feel like your relationship needs to be extremely strong before you can go into
100%.
Yeah.
Your communication has to be top notch. Like you've got to be able to communicate. I mean, this is even if you're in you don't even have to be in business. Like communication is really important. And not taking things personally. So if you see us working together normally, like let's just say in the office day to day, we will have heated arguments, and we will agree to disagree on stuff, but it's never personal. It's never, you're an idiot, or, your idea is stupid, or I can't believe you would say that to, it's just, like and people around us kind of stare at us and go, oh my God, are they about to get a divorce? But we walk away and then we come back and it's like, oh, hey, babe, what do you want for lunch? Yeah. So we don't take it personally or hold grudges or get pissed off. It's just not a thing that we do.
Yeah. That's nice. I think as much as one can communicate to the other, it's also understanding where the other person's coming from. And that's hard to do as well. Like to really understand when you're so set on your way with one thing, to understand that this person's coming from that side is so extremely hard to do. That sometimes you think like, God damn, what am I doing?
Like a great example of that is, Aaron's done a lot of work with sort of government agencies and he used to do it like selling to marketing agencies as well, I think. And so he had that perspective of marketing agencies and he'd been burned a few times by marketing agencies. So he came to the conversation with his filter of, all marketing agencies are sharks, or they're all trying to, he had his opinion. Whereas I'm like, oh, I love marketing agencies. Like they're fun and they're friendly. And, so when we would then talk about, I don't know, whatever marketing agency, I'd be like, oh yeah, great, let's do this and that. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, why not? And then that would create some, a bit of a discussion, a bit of a heated discussion. Yeah. And then I would have to remember that, oh, okay, he's had a bad experience before with people like this. So I need to respect that and understand that that's how he's seeing the situation. So you're absolutely right.
Do you guys do a lot of mindfulness stuff together?
No.
No.
His meditation is, I don't know, playing video games.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah. He does that type of thing in his own way. Yeah. He doesn't. No, he used to do qigong, which is like movement meditation.
Really?
Yeah, but like once a week they used to do it at our co-work space, but he doesn't do that anymore. But I'm very.
You are very into that stuff.
Yeah. I've been doing it every day.
Yeah,
I try to do about 20 minutes every day of meditation.
And you did the retreat.
Went on a 10-day Vipassana silent meditation course.
So
last year.
I'm stupid with this stuff. Tell me what that is.
Oh, it's okay. Not many people know what it is. Vipassana is a style of meditation. It's non-religious, but originated in India, Tibet, perhaps. Origins back. And they run these courses all around the world. And for beginners, you have to do a 10-day course. You can't do anything less than 10 days. And you spend 10 days at the meditation center, which is kind of like it's in a beautiful surrounds, lots of trees, kind of like a monastery.
Yeah.
You have to hand wash everything and you get set meal times and everything. But you meditate for 10 hours a day. So you are up, you're completely silent. You're up at 4, you're meditating from 4:30 to 6:30, then breakfast, and then another, 3 hours of meditation, and then lunch, and then another 4 hours of meditation, and then a short break, and then another 2. So it's hectic. So I was calling it a retreat, when I was telling people about it, and now I'm like, it's not a retreat. A retreat's kind of like relaxing and fun.
It's like a military grade.
This was like a
operation.
military grade boot camp where they break you down
No.
physically and mentally so that you are in pieces, and then so they can build you back up and reprogram you.
Wow.
That's what it's like.
So do you during the meal times you get to speak?
No.
So
You hold noble silence, so you're not allowed to talk to any of the other participants for 9 days, and then on the 10th day they break silence.
Wow. What's the first thing you said? Like fuck. Like fuck.
It was. I think it was. Are we allowed to talk now?
Oh shit.
And then I think my next words were, "Hey roomies," because I was sharing a dorm with 5 other women.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to make any contact with them. So you're not allowed to touch anyone. You're not allowed to write to anyone. You're not allowed to make gestures or write notes or anything. So the no talking was actually the easiest bit. People would say to me, "Oh, Christina, you love talking. How are you going to not talk?" It's not like I spent the whole 10 days going, "Oh, I want to talk. I must talk. It wasn't. I'm like bursting to talk. You just don't. Like, it's easy to not talk. The hard bit is dealing with the mental torment inside.
Like your own voice.
So I spent the first 7 days in complete misery.
Wow.
Like hating life.
Wow.
And I must just say that everyone's experience is different. So everything that I'm sharing about Vipassana, I don't want you to think, oh my God, it's going to be like that for me, because it's not. It's different for everyone. For some people, they're in pain the entire time, mental pain and physical pain. For other people, it's like the first 2 days and then it lifts. For me, I spent the first week feeling utterly miserable. And then on day 7, I had this realization that I was making myself miserable and that I could choose to not be miserable.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. That was like my enlightening moment. I was like, I learned a lot in Vipassana. I learned a lot.
How do you feel now? How long's it been? Since
I got
you came
back on the 22nd. So it hasn't even been a month since I've been back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When I came back for the first week, I was very sensitive to everything. And even looking at my phone, I was like, ooh, look at those buttons. And I was typing really slowly. And sounds were extra
vibrant.
Wow. And I was very present when I was talking to people. I was like much slower in my pace of speak. And my goal is to maintain that, because they teach you a lot about being present in the moment. And, this is where, what you learn is that when you're constantly thinking about the future and wanting what's in the future, that creates misery. Or when you're thinking about stuff that's happened to you that you didn't like, that also creates misery. But when you're present in the moment and just fully focused on what's happening here, that's when you experience that inner peace.
You're the second person that's brought that up. That in a room like this where it's just 2 people, that you're forced to be in the present moment.
Yeah.
And that we don't get to experience that in our day-to-day life because there's so many distractions. You go outside, there's people, there's cars, whatever.
Yeah.
But in a moment like this is where you have a deep connection with someone because you can just really, there's nothing else other than you hearing me and me hearing you. And then that's it. And I think that's so nice. And that's the magic.
Can I say though as well that when I've interviewed people for my podcast, some people get very anxious about the fact that they're being recorded. So for some people, yes, there's no distractions, but there's the distraction of their mind going, do I sound okay? Do I look okay? Did I say the right thing? So and I think the skill of the interviewer, and you do this really well, is in making the guest feel really comfortable. And this can be also taken into, the outside world as well. Yeah. When you are communicating with someone, if you are present and focused on them and genuinely engaged, they're going to relax more and feel more comfortable, and then as a result be more present as well.
Yeah. It's a magic that happens. I think when 2 people genuinely listen to each other, it's so nice.
Yeah. And it's a bit sad that it's rare these days,
right.
Because that should be the norm.
Exactly.
It should be normal that when you go to the supermarket, you look the checkout person in the eye and you smile and you say, hi, how are you? And you genuinely have a a fun conversation. But it just doesn't happen. Like we forget that they're human sometimes, and we go through our day not even acknowledging people as humans.
Yeah.
And then we lose that connection.
Yeah, my partner told me, she said, I don't, when we eat dinner or when we're together talking to each other or whatever, that I never look at my phone. It's always, if it is on the table, it's like flat down. It's face down, because I think it's so important to connect with people. Like, why are we on this earth? We're not on this earth to see what's on our phone. We're on this earth to make meaningful connections with people. And I think that's to me, that's the meaning of being a human.
Yeah.
Like, make
100%.
as many beautiful connections as you can in this lifetime that we're here.
Well, this is why, social media and phones and devices are so toxic for a lot of people, because, it's removing that connection, and then people are spending all their time, typing, or, messaging and taking videos, but they're losing the ability to connect face to face. And as a result, they're getting depression, they're getting ADHD, they're getting all these diseases that didn't even exist, 50 years ago. People are, getting more and more disconnected, and then they're, suiciding and doing horrible things because they don't have that. So, doing what I do in terms of helping people to communicate, and not just with others, but also to connect better within themselves, that, it feels good to be able to make that contribution and to be able to help, maybe to turn, hopefully turn this epidemic around of, not being able to communicate well.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to stop soon? Do you think that's going to decrease in the amount of people always on their phone? Do you think it's just a phase?
Well, I don't think it's going to go away. I think you have to start with the kids, and parents need to set that example for kids, and them not being on their phones all the time. And then I think the schools also need to be really strict with it and say, no phones or whatever.
I think we'll get to a point where people start realizing like how much more fun it is to live your life than to live your life through the phone.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I know that's happened to me. Like, I'm like, hold on, why am I wasting my time on the phone? Like, there's so many things. Like, now we go paddle boarding or go to the park or go diving or whatever. And it's just so much more fun. I could spend hours doing that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But is it my age? Is it that I've got to a certain age where I'm like, I have to start, like, hold on, I don't have much time left to live. Do I have to start taking life by the balls?
You've got plenty of time left to live.
No way. I'm 34 now. I'm done. Like, I'm halfway through.
Halfway through, please. How long are you planning on living?
What's the expectancy?
To
I don't know.
68, please. My parents are in their 70s and they are traveling.
Really?
My dad goes on motorbike trips.
Really?
Yeah.
What a gangster.
Dude, don't give up on me, Nick. You can make it past 70. Come on, Nick.
If I make it to 70, I'll be happy.
You can, if you take care of yourself now, right? Here's Dr. Christina talking. If you take care of yourself now, then you will be able to live, a longer, like, keep drinking the switchule, man.
Yeah,
this blood orange switchule.
I've been making my own kombucha.
Have you?
Yeah. Next time you come in, I'll bring you some.
I want to, actually, my sister gave us a starter for Christmas. Yeah. Because we buy so much of this stuff and I hate, like.
So expensive.
Yeah. And I don't like wasting all the, tin and or whatever it is, the aluminium and the plastic. So I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to make our own. I've been making my own yogurt.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You know what the ingredients of making yogurt is?
What?
Milk and yogurt.
No.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Surely it's more
I swear to you, to make yogurt, you just need yogurt.
The culture's in the yogurt.
No, you just need yogurt. So look, we got one of those pressure cooker slash slow cooker slash everything cooker for Christmas. I'm so excited. This is who I am now. I ask my mum for appliances for Christmas. That's what I do now. But we got it, and it's got a yogurt button.
No.
Yogurt button.
That's awesome.
And what you do, the recipe is you have like a tub of yogurt and you take like half that tub of yogurt, right? Like 2 big scoops of yogurt, chuck it in the pot, and then buy a big 2-liter thing of milk, pour it in, put the lid on, hit yogurt, and go.
So what's happening in that machine?
It's heating it very, very...
To a nice temperature.
Yeah, it's heating it, and then the cultures permeate and do their cultural thing, the yogurt thing. And then eventually after 10 hours of like slow cooking, it turns into yogurt, but it's very runny. So you got to put it in the fridge and let it set for a bit. And then you got to strain it. If you want like a thicker yogurt, you strain it through one of those cheesecloth strainers. and you end up with this super thick, glorious,
Is it nice?
delicious yogurt. Yeah.
Do you put flavor?
I'll put like protein powder and stuff in it, but I haven't tested it out with flavor
All right,
while
I'm gonna test this out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
Yogurt setting,
I'm gonna try.
man. So I'm saving plastic. I'm saving plastic on like all the tins or the containers of yogurt as well. So kombucha's next.
Oh man, I made a standard operating procedure on how to make a kombucha. So I'll get that. I'll send you the link.
What's your flavor? Do you do a flavor?
I like ginger. I like pineapple, and I like it on its own actually as well.
Cool.
But you can also mix it with cranberries. Ooh.
Yum. Okay. Are you gonna try making switchel?
I don't even know what the hell this is. I thought I was drinking kombucha. What is this?
Well, I'll definitely come to you for kombucha making tips when my SCOBY is ready.
Let's do it. I've got the link. I'll link you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. You've
Thanks.
been an amazing guest.
It's been fun.
Yeah, and I'm going to put up some links for where people can find you.
Yeah, sure.
So they can check out your podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. It's been super fun.
All right, and we're out.